Are you ugly? Do you have a face that only a mother can love? Not looking at them for any reason. We're going to talk about everything that the Bible has to say about beauty today. And for our Bad Doctrine of the Week, we have a special cooking edition that y'all get to hear. So all that and more today on the Digging Deeper podcast. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Digging Deeper podcast, where our goal is to dig a little bit deeper into that week's sermon, so that way we might dig it a little bit deeper into our hearts. My name is Chris Brown. I'm the associate pastor here, and I have two very special guests with us. I'll let them introduce themselves.
I'm Roxanne Poe.
What do you do here?
What do you do?
I sing.
Oh, my word.
I'm the worship minister.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I'm Wendy Wilson, and I am the church office manager.
And
ladies minister.
Okay.
And
whatever else you want to throw at me.
And she makes the bulletins, so if anything's wrong on there, you can just blame her.
In coordination with Chris Brown, though.
Yes. And I'm not going to claim that, though. And after a long hiatus, we welcome back Mr. Judah Sanderford on sound.
Hey, everybody.
You know, actually, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were like, "When is Judah coming back?" They were very interested in you coming back, and so you've got fans out there.
Oh, Judah.
Nice.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, you're probably wondering what prompted me to invite these ladies on, and that's because Jacob is out of town on vacation, and I asked everyone I knew, and everyone said no.
I figured that was the scenario because...
So, what was it, 9 o'clock last night?
It was.
Yeah.
I messaged Roxanne and Wendy to see if they would be interested in filling in today. So there you go. You've got Roxanne and Wendy. This may be the most productive Digging Deeper or the least productive. We'll find out together.
It's going to be awesome.
Today.
I feel like it's Chris's worst nightmare.
It is.
Yeah. So, before I forget, I always forget this. If you're watching, go ahead, subscribe, like, comment, share, do all those things. What that does is that tells the algorithm that you like this content and that you want to see more of it. So when we post it, you'll see more.
You'll see more of...
No, we'll see after today.
No, more of Chris.
I mean, Chris.
Yeah.
And Judah.
And Judah, yes. So today should be fun. This actually is probably a worthwhile one to have you ladies on, because Sunday's sermon was about beauty.
Right? Oh, I thought you were going to say, because you're ugly.
I kind of felt like he was
I thought that's where he was going to go.
No, I know better than that.
He's married. He's not dumb.
Yeah, I'm not dumb. Yeah, so Lee was back today. Pastor Lee was back in the pulpit today from the Philippines, and he had lots of fun pictures to share, and he titled the sermon Beautiful, and is basically just talking about, okay, what does God see as beautiful versus what does the world see as beautiful? And so just to overview the points in it, the first point is God is beautiful. Second point is God sees beauty on another scale. And the third point is we choose to be beautiful, which sounds like a very woman thing.
Kind of female type mentality.
It's like, do you write that on y'all's windows?
Yes.
Or your mirror?
We choose.
Today I choose to be beautiful.
It depends on how early or late I get up.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, we'll talk all about that when we get to it. But... man, I forgot to go grab. Okay, can y'all just riff on beauty for a second?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna be right back. Y'all talk about beauty and what y'all think about this. Okay.
You planned this, didn't you?
No, y'all got it.
Wendy.
Okay, let's talk about beauty. So,
Thanks.
All right. Was anything worthwhile said?
No,
there was
absolutely nothing.
Okay.
There's beauty, beauty, beauty.
We may cut that.
Thank you.
Okay, I had to go grab this because Lee's opening illustration that he was talking about was his Bible from whenever he was younger, the first Bible he had ever bought. Sorry, I ran.
Yes.
All the way across the road.
He's worried.
He was really scared.
I'm just very moved. Okay. He talked about his first Bible that he himself bought for ministry, and I have one of those too.
Look at you.
Oh my goodness.
And so, if you didn't see, so he had this Bible they bought probably when he was in high school, I think is when he said.
Yeah.
And used that Bible all through his first pastorate, ministry work, all that different stuff. And it was very precious to him and beautiful to him. Not because the way it looked, because the Bible was actually falling apart and he had to get rebound, but because of how he's seen God work through it and all those different things. I've got my own Bible right here that was very similar. This is the first Bible I bought when I really got into studying the Bible. And as you can see, it's like falling apart on me a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
Y'all can probably see there. It's all
Do you
taped up.
I was going to say, you have duct tape or electrical tape or something going on
I've
there.
got gaff tape on here to keep the binding together. It probably needs on the bottom too. It's got some different stuff on it. It's got all my, I don't know if y'all can see this, especially if you're just listening. It's got all my conspiracy theory notes on there.
Nice.
Are we auctioning this off or something?
I'll let y'all see it in there. Yeah.
wow.
So it basically looks like I'm in the Da Vinci Code on this Bible. But it's one of those things that, I retired this Bible and stopped using it because it was getting so worn out. I didn't want it to completely fall apart on me. And so I got a different one to use, but very similar thing. Like, I really love this Bible, and I hope this Bible never loses me.
I wish we could have seen Pastor
You should get
Lee's,
it rebound.
before.
But I kind of like that's falling apart.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted to see his before picture. You have the Bible.
Before
Yeah.
and after. I bet he has some.
I don't know if I ever saw that Bible beforehand.
I haven't.
Yeah.
That'd be cool, though.
That would be cool.
But do y'all have something similar, maybe Bible, maybe something else, that has like a lot of like sentimental value to you? Not a whole lot of value to everyone else, but to you it's very beautiful.
My Bible. It's falling apart, too, so...
Yeah.
You don't have it with you.
I don't.
I mean, you should run.
I should get it. Here, hang on. You should give me a minute or two.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's at the house. It's the same
Yeah.
thing. But it's funny because I have, since then, so my first Bible that I really studied out of was King James only version because
Right.
that's the culture I grew up in. And so I still have it.
Have you promoted
But
to
it
New
is-
King James Version?
Actually, some people would say heretic because I look at all different kinds of versions now, and I really appreciate it to be able to better understand the verse in context.
And the different choices of
Yes.
translation and things
Choices
like
of
that.
translation. So I have multiple Bibles now. And then a lot of times I still find myself getting on my phone and then also looking up other translations. So.
Yeah. Yep. Well, cool. Yeah. So, so in the same way as Pastor Lee was saying that his Bible he doesn't find it beautiful because of the way it looks, but beautiful because of the intrinsic value to it and how God has used it. Very similar today to our points today. So first, before we get into that, his first point is God is beautiful. So he brought up an interesting point. Well, first, let's read the passage that he used. So Psalm 27:4, he says this, David. One thing I ask of the Lord, this is what I seek, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. So David is overtly saying there, God is beautiful and that he has a beauty to him. But the Bible also says that God is invisible. God has no form aside from Jesus becoming incarnate. So how can there be an invisible, formless God who is also beautiful? Thoughts?
Well, I mean, we're created in his image.
Right.
And so other humans are beautiful, but also his creation. Like everything he created, there's a part of him in that because he created it and it's absolutely beautiful. But also when you're in his presence, that's beautiful as well.
Yeah, and so what you're saying is like the outflow of who God is what makes him beautiful.
Yes.
So we're saying be it his creation or how he treats and things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, I would say so too. Which kind of sets the tone for the entire way that God sees beauty. God himself is formless, invisible, and yet is beautiful, meaning that our beauty doesn't come from form or any external thing. It comes from the inward and the outflow of what's going on inward. He brought up a point that God is beautiful. The Bible defines God as beautiful, yet the world doesn't call God beautiful. The world calls God ugly because he's not, accepting or whatever, and not towing the agenda of the culture. Y'all have any thoughts on that? Of why does the world see God as ugly?
Go ahead, Roxanne.
No.
Yeah, well, because it's not, like you said, it's not following. His scripture and his character doesn't always follow their agenda. And what they're wanting is not just, not just acceptance of, okay, this is who I am, but you also have to, can't think of the word I'm trying to say.
Like affirm?
Yes, they want affirmation. So it's not enough to say, you're living in sin and you're choosing sin, but I love you. That's not acceptable. It has to be, what you're choosing to do for you is okay and I love it.
Yeah, so essentially what you're saying is that the world will only define something as beautiful if it agrees and affirms what it's saying.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And then whenever it doesn't do that, then it's not beautiful anymore. Maybe like spouses. Is that the thing? Do y'all call your spouses ugly whenever they don't agree with you?
That's a
Bo, Mike, if you're watching,
No, Bo's
I'm on your side. You brought up earlier the idea of like we're made in the image of God, and that's like a really interesting thing. Is that God is beautiful in Himself, and we're made in the image of God. So there's a beauty within us. Like, would you say that? But it's really interesting because the beauty that we're pulling from God isn't the external thing that the world really revolves around. It's more of the internal heart issue, and we're going to kind of get into point 2 here on that. But Lee pointed out God sees beauty on another scale. And so whenever we're made in the image of God, we're beautiful, but not because of any external factor, but because of internal things and where the heart is on that. And he brought up the Pharisees when Jesus was talking to them, which is one of my favorite scriptures here because he just lays into the Pharisees. I'll read. This is Matthew 23:27. It says, "Woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You are like whitewashed tombs. You look beautiful on the outside, but on the inside are full of dead men's bones and everything unclean. In the same way, on the outside you appear to people as righteous, but on the inside you are full of hypocrisy and wickedness." Have y'all spent a lot of time in funeral homes?
Well,
Wow. That's yes, actually.
It's a load.
well, okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay, so we do funerals a lot here at the church, and there's two things that you see on like an open casket funeral. One, you've got a nice casket laying out, and then two, what do they call the people that work at the funeral home? The people that prepare the body. Do you know what they're called?
Oh, they're oh my goodness, how did my brain
Is
just
that? What did you got?
they're
Mortician.
I don't remember.
yes,
Well,
they're
mortician. Yeah,
morticians,
mortician.
yes.
I was like,
I'm literally like
I was like-
funeral home workers.
First thing I thought was mortician. I'm like, no, it's close.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
So you've got this like nice casket, and then you got the mortician who prepares the body and does all the makeup, because once the body dies, like it degrades pretty quickly, right? And so even if the funeral's a week later, that body is already starting to decay, even at their best efforts to preserve it. So, the guy comes in and does a lot of makeup, a lot of like work to get the body to be presentable as alive. Yet the body's not. I think that's like a good representation of what Jesus is saying here with the Pharisees. And a similar thing, he says like you're like whitewashed tombs, and so he's talking about the tombs that they would bury bodies in or put bodies in. And on the outside, whitewashed tombs look really nice, but on the inside, it's just full of decay and stuff like that. And so, do y'all got any thoughts on that?
For me, it's kind of like sparkles, glitter.
Yeah,
okay.
About how it looks nice on the outside, but in reality, it's the worst.
No. It's like stuff that's shiny that makes my eyes happy. But does it really make your heart happy?
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't make Chris's heart happy.
It does not. It doesn't.
I can't stand glitter, and Roxanne loves glitter. And it stays forever.
It does. And it's so shiny.
Look at the difference. You're like, it stays forever.
It does. It doesn't matter how much you try to clean it up. It will always be there,
but
just nagging at you.
I think of it as like reflecting God's glory.
Oh.
Roxanne, you're like a whitewashed tomb.
Wow.
Anyways, sorry, continue. So it's like...
Girl, I already lost my train of thought.
So it's like glitter, sparkles.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything.
Yeah, on the inside. Make your heart happy. Because just like I'm married, you're married, you're married.
Yeah, hopefully.
After this, we'll see. But, the way you see your husband, you love him and all the flaws and everything else, you accept him. But there could be someone else who sees him and is like, no, I could never live with somebody like that, But you see the beauty in it, and I feel like God, like Pastor Lee said, like with the ugly babies and the pretty babies, God is like.
So y'all have kids. You have grandkids. You are about to have a grandkid.
I know. I'm so excited.
Yeah. She's excited.
I have 2 children. So we've all seen a lot of babies. Now mine don't apply to this because mine really are.
That's what I said earlier. I was
babies.
Like, he talked about moms and ugly babies. I was like, but mine really were beautiful.
Yeah,
so.
my babies really were the prettiest babies ever to be born.
Ever in all the land.
Ever.
And I'm sure that's probably the case with y'all's too.
Yes.
I'm guessing. But there are some babies out there that look like little aliens.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Have y'all seen those babies?
I've seen a few.
Or they look like Benjamin Button, like where they look like an 80-year-old man just came. But what does that mom say? That mom thinks that's the most beautiful baby she's ever seen, and that's what he was kind of getting at that you were saying when Pastor Lee talked about this. That mothers don't view the beauty of their child through the lens of like worldly beauty. They view the love of their child, the beauty of their child through a lens of love, and that you're not looking at external beauty at that point. You're looking at internal beauty, and so I imagine y'all agree with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the external beauty, worldly external beauty, that's going to fade. And so the love fades with it, which is obviously super sad. But I think the eternal love, the eternal beauty that God, he talks about it being on a different level, God's love and his beauty and the way he sees us and everything's on a different level. Obviously God is on a different level. And I also think that for us to be beautiful to God, we have to start loving on a different level. Start looking at the inside and start loving people, on a different level. In order, and then in return, then our beauty, is on a different level from God's eyes. Yeah.
So what you're saying is, God sees beauty on a different level than we do. And in following God and living out God, we should also view beauty on a different level.
Right.
Yeah. So tying that back in with the Pharisees, so he was saying that y'all are like whitewashed tombs. You look really great on the outside, but on the inside, you're dead and broken. So for them, how they viewed their own beauty was, how does everything look on the outside, which was probably twofolded for them. Like one, they probably did place a significance on like physical like beauty and like the garbs and all that. But on the other side of that was very much like a look good behavior wise. Like they very much followed the law to like a crazy extent. And they thought that following the law is what made them beautiful. And so not only was that a heart issue in themselves of like they think that they're in a right relationship with God because they're doing all the right things, quote unquote, going to church, reading their Bible, so on and so forth. So that's a bad enough situation in itself that they think that they're in a right relationship with God because of those things. But that also, as you were kind of getting at, is how you view your relationship with God is also going to bleed into how you view your relationship with others. So for them, because they thought that they were beautiful because of the external things that they were doing, they now judged that same criteria to everyone else around them. And if y'all aren't doing these things, y'all aren't beautiful and y'all are ugly. And so kind of like what you were saying is we need to flip that whole script around of, one, our relationship with God and our beauty to God isn't determined by how many good things we can do, right? Mm-hmm. It's determined by our heart and trusting Him and placing our faith in Him. And then that also changes how we view each other in the sense of like my love for another person and how I view them beauty-wise isn't determined on these external factors, their behavior and things like that, but rather on their heart for God. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, the amazing thing too is if you're focused on heart transformation, the automatic outflow is going to be you're going to see more character. You're going to see the character of God instead of seeing the character of yourself, right? As opposed to, okay, I've got these set of rules, these laws, and I'm checking the boxes and I'm doing all these things. So look at me, I'm holy. Mm-hmm. Well, no, if your heart isn't changed, then even these things that you're doing that look good, there's still a falsehood to it because it's not a heart transformed act for God.
Yeah, and that's where Lee was getting at on the kind of two levels. One, there's like, the physical level of like our physical appearance, and then the other is like our spiritual appearance. And on both of those, Lee was kind of getting at, we spend so much time and energy and money and resources on trying to increase those things. So it's like you're trying to like make yourself look better by the clothes or the makeup or the hair or the whatever it is, and all that's effectively a waste of time in terms of how God views you, because God doesn't care. And that's the great thing. So there's been times that people say, or I've heard say in like the dating scene, it's like, okay, this girl over here is, they would say this all the time at the porch, this young adult gathering in Dallas. They would say, okay, there's this girl over here, loves God, chasing after God. She's amazing. Her personality's great. We get along, but I don't find her attractive. What should I do? And the answer was, you need to find beautiful what God finds beautiful. And if you have this girl who loves God and is chasing after God and all these great qualities and attributes, but you're not attracted to her physical appearance, then maybe you're focusing on the wrong things here. Now, it's not to throw out physical appearance and all that, but it's just one of those things of like, it's really easy to get our priorities out of whack and start focusing on the external rather than the internal.
Well, that's also the beauty of God is the fact that He sees us through His God lens, which is He sees our hearts, and He sees the person that we are inside, and we don't see that whenever we see somebody walk down the street. We don't see their heart. You have to get to know them, and but God's seeing us in who we are and where we are, and still loving us in spite of all of that.
Yeah. It's like whenever, when you were kids and you go to the library or a book sale, what did they tell you? Don't judge a book by its cover, right? I still judge books by its cover.
I do too. I'm like, ew.
You're like picking out Bibles. You're like, this one's ugly.
Right? Wow.
Yes. So overall, it's basically on two levels. One, don't put so much time and resources and focus on trying to make the outside of your life, whether it be physical or spiritual, look pretty to the detriment of your internal beauty, right? And all those things. Here's a fun fact for you. So a lot of this was kind of like revolved around God doesn't see, or God doesn't judge beauty based on the outside, but on the inside. One of the first notes I've ever taken in my Bible, not this Bible, it was a Bible before it, was in, I think it's Revelation 2. So y'all know the throne, and everyone's gathered around them, and they're describing the angels. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? Okay, do y'all know how they describe the angels? Off the top of your head? I'm putting you on the spot. Okay.
Like multiple eyes.
Yeah, like
all kinds of
all
like
these
craziness.
eyes.
Like
Yes.
scary.
Yes, all these eyes, all these things. So I'm going to say this, I'm going to be embarrassed. I was like in 7th grade, so keep that in mind. So I read this passage and I wrote a little note out next to it in my Bible, and I said, "Look at these angels. They are ugly. They've got all these eyes and whatnot, and man, they're still finding a way to worship God through that."
That's amazing.
Oh, that's right. Well, because there's memes that like have this is y'all think angels look like this.
Oh, yes,
this is
yeah,
what
right.
they actually look like.
So that was one of the first notes I've ever taken in my
That's
Bible.
amazing.
Oh my gosh.
As a 7th grader who was very consumed with looks. That gave me
Those angels.
Yeah, that gave me great hope that, man, if even the angels who are ugly can worship God through this, then surely I can. Yeah. All
Oh,
right.
that's hilarious.
Yes. Okay.
You're like,
All right, let's keep going.
you don't have any more notes you want
Yeah.
to tell us about?
No, that's the
okay,
only
all
one
right.
about that.
I liked that fun fact.
A fun
what's a
fact.
fun
You get a little peek behind the curtain. All right, we got to hurry up so we can get to a staff meeting. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Wah, wah.
those are the first 2 points. God is beautiful, and God sees beauty on another scale. And the third point, which gets to our main passage for today, is we choose to be beautiful. So God is beautiful. God sees beauty on another scale, and we choose to be beautiful. Which, before we even get going, very much kind of contradicts like the traditional standard of beauty, right? It's
Right.
like you got it or you don't got it, or you gotta like really like do all these external things to get. And this is like no, in terms of how God sees beauty, you have a choice in whether you are beautiful or not. And he goes to Mark 14:6 in this. And I can read that passage. It says, this is with Mary. Is this the one where Martha's in it too? Martha's out doing something, or is that a different one? I think that might be a different one. Anyways, this is Mary with Jesus pretty soon before he goes to the cross. So it says this, Mark 14:6. "Leave her alone," said Jesus. "Why are you bothering her? She has done a beautiful thing to me. The poor you always have with you." Oh, wait, I'm skipping a piece. No, that's right. Yeah. "The poor you will always have with you, and you can help them anytime you want, but you will not always have me." Now, let's provide a little bit of context to what's going on, because this is kind of coming into the middle of the story. So you got Mary, who came to Jesus and poured out her perfume on his feet. And Judas comes up, and along with some of the other disciples, and was basically like, "What are you doing? We can take that perfume, sell it, and give it to the poor." And this was Jesus' response: "Leave her alone. Why are you bothering me? She has done a beautiful thing." Now, there's a few interesting things to point out here. Did y'all hear what Lee said that the cost of that perfume was?
Yeah, year's wage.
Yeah.
A year's wage. What was the average wage in America? It was like $40,000 or something like that. So imagine taking a $40,000 perfume I can't imagine spending $5 on perfume. But I'm
big spender. What have you been buying, Randy?
you're like, that's why I smell this way. So a $40,000 bottle of perfume, and then just taking it and dumping it out on Jesus. I can actually see the cheapskate that I am. I can see where Judas was coming from
like,
here.
hang on a second.
I know. Yeah. Are y'all cheapskates? Are y'all like buy the book, like find the cheapest
no.
thing?
Okay. Yeah, out of Bo and I am.
You're the cheapskate. Yeah. Judah, are you a cheapskate or are you just free spirit spender?
Very cheapskate.
Very cheapskate. Okay.
I'm the only free spender.
Yeah. So let's recreate the situation. Roxanne spends $40,000 on a perfume and then just dumps it out on Lee's feet. I'm just kidding.
And the three of us are all like, whoa,
What are you doing?
And Lee stops us and he's like, she's done a beautiful thing.
Listen, he talked about his feet. I'm not sure.
Did he talk about his feet?
Oh,
Oh,
yes.
yeah,
He brought
he
up
talked
the scripture talking about how
His feet
our feet
that bring the good news. Yeah.
that bring the good news
Oh,
are
yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed
and
that.
and literally,
Oh yeah. And he described his feet.
I know, but
good
it
stuff.
made me think because like I know I grew up and it's like, yeah, no, feet aren't pretty. Doesn't matter what you do to them, they're not pretty.
I agree.
And I've seen some feet that kind of look like talons.
I've seen
And
2 feet
so-
at least.
And so, yeah, no, feet aren't pretty, but in God's eyes, they are.
Especially when they're anointed with $40,000
Right.
of perfume. Anyways, so Roxanne pours out the $40,000 perfume. I could see myself being Judas
I could
in
see
this
it.
moment,
Wait, I
coming
just
up and
thought
saying,
about something. Is that the first recording of a pedicure?
I don't know.
I don't.
That might be
I think it's a stretch, but
Oh,
it might be Ruth and Boaz. It's like where
yeah.
they cover his
Yes.
feet. Maybe she did a pedicure. She was
She's
down
like,
there.
ooh, pumice stone. No,
Yeah.
Jesus.
I don't even know what that is.
Sorry, rabbit trail.
anywho,
Anyways, I could see myself being Judah, or not Judah.
Don't bring me this.
he's like,
Bring me into this.
I could see myself being Judas in that moment and coming in and saying, "What are you doing? We could sell that and give it to the poor."
Right.
Now, of course, that's not what Judas is. That's not what his intention was, right? Because we know Judas was,
Right.
skimming a little bit off the top and did not have pure intentions. But Jesus says, "Don't bother her. She's done a beautiful thing. The poor you will always have with you," which is a really interesting statement that we could get into. And some might ask, like, was Jesus not for helping the poor? And a lot of times, what you see when Jesus is in disagreements and like conflict, he won't take the obvious argument approach. So, like, the obvious argument approach here would be, the poor doesn't have anything to do with this. This has to do with her anointing me before my death and burial, which we'll talk about in a second. That would have been the obvious argument. It's like you have the whole entirely wrong thinking here.
Right.
But what Jesus does in a lot of his arguments, he doesn't take the obvious argument route. He grants the premise that they give him and then shows them how they're wrong even under that premise, right? And so Judas's argument was, we could give this to the poor. And instead of completely saying you're wrong, he says, yeah, you could, but the poor will always be with us. I won't always be with you. And there's a very meaningful point to what's going on here, which isn't just dumping out perfume. Jesus' feet didn't just smell bad, right? And it's like, let's just maybe his feet were sweaty and like stinking up the room. I don't think that's what was going on. Actually, I know that's not what was going on. Jesus was obviously about to go to the cross and die and then be put in a tomb. And normally they would have a time to anoint the body and prepare the body. Jesus isn't going to get that. And so what she's doing is she's preparing him for his death before the death even happens. And so this isn't just we're wasting perfume as it looks like. It's no, this has a very significant point to it in Jesus' reason for even being here in that. But the whole point, all that being aside, is Jesus says, she has done a beautiful thing to me, right? Which Jesus is getting at, and what Pastor Lee is getting at here, is that we have a choice to do beautiful things for God, right? And the question that I guess I would ask is, how do we apply that? So we can do beautiful things for God. For Mary, it was pouring out the perfume that she had on his feet and anointing him. What are things that we can do today that would be beautiful to God?
Well, obviously sacrificial things, giving of yourself or something that's important to you, whether that's your time, pouring out love on other people, something that cost you something,
Yeah, there's a sacrifice to it. In serving. If you're saying I'm serving, but there's no sacrifice to it,
Yeah.
I mean, you're just kind of doing a thing. Instead of you're not actually, it's like the heart behind it.
Yeah.
There's got to be some kind of a sacrifice there.
And not looking for anything in return, too. So,
Yeah, that's a
any
big
kind of
one.
accolades or praises. And
Yeah, let's shift over a little bit into the worship, because you lead the worship. You also lead the worship most weeks. When it comes to our worship with God, how can we make sure that our worship to God is beautiful and not ugly? Aside from pitch.
I'm like, well, you got another hour.
We can.
You gotta
do
make
our
sure-
warm-ups. We can.
You got to make sure your heart's right.
Oh, that's
you gotta-
100%.
Yeah, and you gotta lay it all out there. You can't. I don't feel like you can expect other people to follow you in worship if you're not worshiping yourself, or if they don't see the authenticity. And I don't say that about spiritually mature Christians, because I think if you can worship God anywhere, anyway, regardless of who's singing what. But like the baby Christians, people that are in church, that come to church, and we're a representation of Christ. And so whenever we're up there and we're worshiping, if all they see is a show, I mean, okay, let me put it this way. Whenever I'm worshiping and I look out there into the congregation, you have people that worship different ways. There are people that raise their hands, there are people that bounce around, there are people, that have their eyes closed. There's all different kinds of ways.
You didn't describe the way that I worship. Describe the way that I worship.
Do it? I don't know. It's like that, the arms crossed.
Arms crossed.
I'm not sure that.
He's
Anyway,
arms crossed, ready to receive.
Hey. I believe we read a passage earlier where Jesus said, "You're whitewashed tombs on the outside, but you are ugly on the inside."
Now, I will say,
God doesn't look at the outward appearance. God looks at the inward beauty.
okay,
He does look at your
sometimes
actions.
I am beautiful.
Sometimes that outward
I am beautiful
is
just as I am.
Oh my!
Sometimes that's reflecting what's going on the inside. No, so whenever you first talked to me whenever you first talked to me, and I was very adamant that no, that's not what God wants for me.
To lead worship.
To help. I was like, no. And there was definitely a process. Like, if you go back and look at the original, it was not beautiful.
Are you talking about beautiful on external appearances
But here's
internal?
the thing. Externally, but also internally, what I was feeling, because I was letting my anxiety take over me, and was just in the moment of, okay, God, I'm trusting you, but I'm still letting all the anxiety take over me.
Do I sound good? Do I sound good?
You could see it on the outside, right? And now I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna worship you, and I'm gonna do all the things to prepare beforehand that I need to do on my part, right, to be able to help and lead worship with the team. But when it comes to the worship in the service, I'm giving it to him and I'm just worshiping him. And I may look crazy sometimes, I don't know. But
I mean, most days.
most days, right? 'Cause
That's not just
how
on
I look.
stage. That's just,
But I'm just worshiping him. Now, I will say, this last Sunday, whenever y'all are having to decide on whether to cut a song, like I'm totally like I'm just worshiping God, but then y'all are talking and I can hear you in my ear, and for whatever reason, Wendy was like started to get anxious, and my blood pressure started going up to where it was like I was afraid it was going to make the alarm part go off, so I had to take my watch off. Like, for real. And I'm like, and I told her afterward, and I know that's ridiculous, but that's the ugly part, the anxious weirdness that's in me that I'm like, no, God, I want you to take that away. I want you. I want to reflect you.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing that I love about the Bible when it does talk about screaming, not screaming, singing.
That was a Freudian slip. He's totally like Wendy screaming.
Yeah. When it talks about singing and worshiping God, there's that psalm. It's like, make a joyful noise unto the Lord. Now, if that joyful noise could be on pitch, man, that'd be great. It's kind of like, it's like God can view our singing through the lens of love, but my ears have a hard time like hearing it through the lens of love. And so if things can be on pitch, that's great. But even if they're not, as long as it's with a joyful heart, like that's the important part, right?
Right.
Like singing on pitch is important. It's great. But what's even more important than that is the joyfulness of our heart, the reverence in our heart, all those things. And that's what actually gives what we do on Sunday morning beauty, right? Like compared to, like we can get up there and sing, give me that old time rock and roll, or we could get up there and sing, what's the song that we sang on Sunday? Rock of Ages. And if there's not a heart of worship behind it, those effectively are the same thing.
Right.
Like there's no difference between that. It's like, it's just words and it's just music, or it's just words put to music and melody. What makes it different, what makes it worship is the heart behind it. And so just very much making sure that's right. And that's just one easy way to like choose to be beautiful to God is whenever we do sing, whenever we do come together and worship Him, is like make sure the heart's right. And you know what that means? If I'm sitting there like this, I could have such a heart of worship in that. Man, I remember I was I'm a terrible concert goer. Do y'all like concerts?
You know what? I used to go to concerts. I enjoy concerts, yeah.
It's like I'm critiquing in my brain and working the whole time. It's a music thing, but I mean,
I'm kind of part of it is like the introvertedness doesn't want to go to a group of people, and the other part is the cheapskate that doesn't want to spend the money on the ticket because I can just watch it on YouTube.
What about free concerts?
There's still a lot of people, I think.
It is very people-y.
So I'll be that. I remember I went to a concert with my brother and a friend, and it was this like rock band. And so it was not like heavy metal where like there's like a mosh pit going on, but like edging on it where like, the crowd is a little bit more rambunctious than a normal crowd. And so I'm like in the center of this crowd and everyone's like, yeah. And like crying. And I'm just standing there like this. And like I imagine if someone was like looking at me, they would be like, why is that guy even here? Like he's having the worst night of his life. But inwardly, so outwardly it looks like it. Inwardly, I was having a great time. I was listening to music. I was really enjoying it. It didn't look like that.
But why didn't you let your face show that?
Because I, like God, view beauty on the inside.
Oh my God. I think even Judah had a hard time with that.
Judah, are you with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, come on.
Me and Judah are going to go to a concert on YouTube later.
Like
and just sit there.
That's going to be great. One word.
Okay. All right. We need to wrap this up. Any other thoughts on that? No. Here's why I will agree with you. Typically speaking, not an absolute rule, but typically speaking, what's going on in the heart will overflow into what we do. Mm-hmm. And so while you can't look at someone's external appearance and say they're beautiful on the inside, what beauty on the inside should do is produce fruit.
Right.
and things coming out. And so if someone has zero fruit on the outside, zero representation on the outside of a beauty that's inside, you might question, you can't say definitively, but you might question, is there beauty on the inside? Because if the Holy Spirit is working in our life, and if we're trusting God, there should be fruit budding out of our life into that. So that's the one caveat, is that you can't judge a person's heart based on their actions, but Jesus did tell us, like, here's some indicators just to kind of get us in the ballpark of it. If they have fruit coming out of their life, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, all that different stuff, that's a good indication that might be outflowing out of a heart for God.
Right. Well, okay, so in there, he said, or one of the scriptures they read, that one of the things that God finds beautiful is a gentle spirit, gentle and quiet spirit kind of thing. So my question is...
I know, gentle and quiet. Oh.
So my question is, so what's the difference between a gentle and a quiet spirit and a gentle and quiet personality? So can you have a gentle and quiet spirit if you have a loud personality? Is there how does that work? I mean, does that mean...
Are you loud for Jesus, or are you loud for yourself?
I mean, can you be a gentle, quiet spirit and be also loud and ridiculous? That's
You're asking the introvert.
No. So gentle, okay. Gentle sometimes is intermixed with, like, meekness.
Yeah.
And so where sometimes that word gets a little bit misconstrued is, like, gentle means, like, okay, like you don't ever disrupt the flow, right? Gentle is more of like all of your fire and strength is brought under control, right? And so let's say if we were to attach that to a personality, let's say you have a very, like, extroverted, out there personality. I don't think gentleness means you can't be extroverted and going out of and being extra and being a bit much at times. I don't think it means that. I think it means that everything under control, right? So in the same way, if I was to tell an introvert, your tendency is going to be to huddle up into a ball in the corner. You need to get that under control, because there's times that you're going to need to go out there and be engaged with people. And so where an introvert can struggle with, quote unquote, too much gentleness, and they need to be able to get out there, an extrovert can struggle with not being able to control their muchness and get under control, and be a gentle and quiet spirit. Yeah. Anyways, that'd be my knee-jerk reaction.
It's interesting that you brought up meekness, because I had the wrong definition, like, forever. I always took meek to mean weak and shy, right? And so I used to be, because I let anxiety rule me, I'm painfully shy. Is what I used to say. And that was my excuse to be quiet and to just not have to. Because I used to say, I'm allergic to public speaking, is what I used to say, because I'd break out in hives. Like, I'd totally get freaked out. And it was actually me allowing fear and anxiety to rule me instead of trusting God. Not saying that the only way you're trusting God is if you're being loud. That's not what I'm saying. But
That's what I heard.
I did have a misunderstanding of what meekness was, and that it's like a gentle strength, like what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're able to keep it. It's under control.
It's under control. You're not losing it. You're in control of yourself,
right?
To be able to do what you need to do. Because there's times, if you're going to take the weak approach, like gentleness and meekness is weakness. Well, that doesn't make sense with Jesus.
Right.
Because there's plenty of times that, passage we read today, he was pretty harsh with the Pharisees. And, like, that's not weakness, because he's being confrontational in that moment. But it's also not gentleness, right? Like he's being gentle and meek in that moment, not because he's not being harsh, but because he has it under control.
Right.
I can imagine he got very frustrated at times, and even in the times that he's being a little bit more harsh and a little bit more direct, all that's still under control, and he's not losing it. So
don't lose it, is what you're saying.
Yeah, just don't lose
Don't lose
it.
it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Cool.
But for you, I think a good interpretation is to be gentle and quiet.
Just be quiet.
You're like, shh.
Yeah, it might be a good thing. Just be quiet. Let's start there. Let's start with quiet.
So I will say I can be honest and say, okay, so maybe now I'm okay with using my voice, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I need to work on the keeping it under control kind of a thing, because it's not fun to have to go back after the fact and be like, wow.
Wow.
Ew,
That
that
was
was gross.
That was a
Sorry.
So we all think every night when you go to bed,
Right.
like that was a lot.
That was
You're
a
like,
lot.
hey, the list of
I
who
think
I
that
need to
too.
apologize to today.
Yeah.
Like,
I was not gentle and quiet. Oh goodness. Okay. All right, we're getting off track.
Okay.
All right, so let's recap the sermon one last time. Then we'll get into our very special bad doctrine of the week. So
Oh, okay.
Wait, before you do that,
yeah. Uh-huh.
I just want to say the computer's at 10%.
Oh no.
All right, we gotta hurry. Okay.
okay.
go fast.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so let's recap real quick.
Okay.
Lee's sermon was all about being beautiful. What does God define as beauty? And his points were God is beautiful, even though he's formless and invisible. He is the definition of beauty, and everything outflows out of that. 2, God sees beauty on another scale. He doesn't look at beauty on the outside like the world does. He looks at beauty on the inside and what's in the heart. And then 3, beauty. We can choose to be beautiful in the same way that Mary chose to pour out what she had on Jesus, anoint him, and that was a beautiful thing to Jesus. We can also be beautiful, whether it's in our worship, through heart of worship, or through evangelism, how beautiful are the feet of those who share the good news, loving others well, all those different things, being a force for good for Jesus with the right heart. All of those things are ways that you can be beautiful today. Right?
Yes.
Sound pretty good?
Good.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Well, let's move into the bad doctrine of the week, and I've got a special cooking edition.
Cooking
one.
edition.
Okay, so do y'all cook?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Okay.
the time.
I actually kind of like to cook.
I love to.
I started out, my signature recipe is mac and cheese and barbecue hot dogs.
Oh yes.
That is your staple.
But I've gotten a little bit better. Last night I made teriyaki chicken,
Oh,
What?
and Randy said it was really good.
that's like an actual.
With Chris Brown.
Oh yeah, no,
Dish.
it is. I had the
Yeah.
measuring cups out and everything. It wasn't even like one of those like frozen things that you just throw in the microwave.
I'm impressed.
Okay. So in this week's bad doctrine of the week, I want to share with y'all a cooking recipe that I found online. So this is from a YouTuber named King Cobra. And he makes recipes and shares them with the world on YouTube. And I'm just gonna. So it's a pasta. Do y'all like pasta? Are y'all very
Yeah.
familiar
Oh, yeah.
with pasta?
Oh, yeah.
It's one of my favorite dishes. So here's some of the ingredients of this pasta. So he takes 2 different like hamburger helper type pasta things, mixes it together, stirs. Doesn't even when you make noodles or when you cook noodles, what do you do?
Put them in water.
Yeah. You
What do you do with the
boil
water?
them.
You
Boil it.
boil the water,
Yeah,
then
boil
throw them
the
in.
water, Then put them in. Yeah.
Cold water, noodles, then turned on the thing. Weird,
What?
right? Okay, so that's the first red flag. So you got that. Here's some of the other ingredients. So you got cheeseburger seasoning packet from one of
Yeah.
them, stroganoff seasoning packet from the other one.
What?
All right. Salt. Salt's
More?
a pretty.
Okay, yeah.
pretty-
Okay, but
Yeah.
you're
there's
right.
a lot of
That's a
sodium in
whole
those.
lot.
So a little bit more salt.
Yeah.
Sugar.
Stop it.
You
No.
put sugar in
No.
No.
in pasta. Okay.
Pickles.
No.
You're gonna tell me pickles next?
No
Okay.
pickles.
Like, oh,
Mustard.
Oh,
what?
Ranch.
stop.
Mayonnaise.
What?
All mixed together.
Is he a bachelor? Is this like a bachelor
No.
dude? or something?
I don't know, but just looking at it, I'm gonna guess. He's
I feel like it's a
bachelor.
dare.
No.
Was he dared?
No, he's dead serious. He's dead serious, and he didn't even drain the water. It was like all of it.
No.
And to make it even better, I'll have to send y'all the video later. to make it even better, he used the day before he used the pot to boil eggs. He didn't clean the pot. He just
That's a Wendy thing. She's like,
so at the I'll have to show you at the beginning of this thing. At the beginning of him starting to boil the noodles, you can see all this like residue.
oh no,
all over the pot.
Nobody, nope.
Nobody try this recipe at home.
Judah, do you cook?
This sounds awful.
I don't.
You know, okay. All right. I'll send you this video
It's like
and you can try it out.
No, don't
Okay.
do it.
No, but it's okay. So you have the water in there, have the noodles, and then like as the noodles started to boil, added in the mustard. I'm like, that's weird. Added in the ranch and put like 7 scoops of mayonnaise in there.
Oh my gosh,
And just started stirring it. And
Was it just like a big glob when he was done?
it was pretty globby. Like it was.
Because pasta, so the whole thing
Mushy.
about boiling water, it's
Slimy.
exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it, and you want it al dente, and you take it out, and you
Yeah.
You don't
had
leave
to
it
be-
in the water like that because
Yeah.
they'll start the starches break down,
Yes.
and then it's just slimy grossness.
Yeah, it's just mushy
No.
noodles. Yeah, I would venture to say that it was probably pretty mushy.
Did he eat it?
Oh yeah, he ate it.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
Now, to be fair to him, if I didn't see what he did beforehand and I just saw that the cup or the bowl of noodles that he was eating,
You're like, ooh.
I would have probably thought that looks like something I've made before. But seeing what went into it, I don't know if I'd eat it. Here's where the bad doctrine of the week comes in, right? Isaiah 1:19.
What's going on?
Isaiah 1:19 says
I like
this.
this.
If you are willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land. That's not the good things of the
No,
land.
that is not. I was about to say, please don't say Jesus redeemed that dish because, no.
There's no redemption.
So if I was to imply the negative inference, so the positive inference is if you're willing and obedient to the Lord, you will eat the good things of the land. If I was to imply the negative, if you're unwilling and disobedient, you'll eat the bad things of the land.
Oh.
Yes.
So I don't want to
You're like,
imply motive here,
But
but I think that guy's not following God.
you think?
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think that's
Because he clearly doesn't have any wisdom from God
Yeah.
with doing the things he did for that dish.
And I know what you might say at this point. You might say, Chris, didn't y'all just talk about for 45 minutes how God judges the heart and not what we do?
I don't feel like God said that dish is beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. No.
I'm just reading scripture. I'm only reading scripture. And the scripture says if you're willing and obedient, you will eat the good things of the land.
That's a little extra, don't you
Yeah.
think?
It is extra.
Eggs.
The Lord wants
See
us
what I
to go
did
to
there?
Texas Day, Brazil.
Yes.
The Lord wants us to go to the
Preach.
Frisco's.
Oh,
Yes.
glory,
The Lord
hallelujah.
wants us in a pinch to go to Olive Garden to get
That's
our pasta.
That's what I feel it. I feel like that's true. You're speaking truth.
What the Lord does not want is for us to use dirty boiled water,
Egg water.
No.
egg water, and put mustard, ranch, and mayo in
So
it.
what could that have smelled like when he was finished?
There's
with
no
it?
telling, man. I don't know. I will. No. Okay. So
What's sad is someone out there in the world, because that's online,
Is making it right now.
is trying that.
They're
yes,
doing it.
Yeah. So bad doctrine of the week. Did y'all agree with that?
I agree.
That's bad.
That was
doctrine.
not,
I agree.
That was not beautiful.
That was
No.
not beautiful. Now y'all are okay. Shameless plug here, ladies. Y'all, the Ladies Ministry's putting together a cookbook.
Yes.
right.
Yes. We're putting together a cookbook.
That y'all are going to sell as a fundraiser.
That's not
Yes.
going to be one of.
Can that be
Yes.
one
Nope.
of the recipes?
Nobody. Nope. Mm-mm.
I'll write it out.
No.
Wait, I get to submit a recipe. Right?
but you're
my
not a lady.
But isn't there a staff one? Cammie said there's a staff page.
Oh, that's right. We were talking. I mean, if that's what you want in,
I might submit this recipe so that way it
No,
makes it
I feel
into.
like Can we put a
Judah, do you think I should?
I feel
Disclaimer.
like you need to do
Absolutely.
your
Yeah.
original.
Judah
Chris.
said that I could.
Judah.
And he's the end all be all.
Judah, you're on our team.
Anyways, you'll
world.
have to buy the ladies cookbook
Yes.
recipe
Yes, yes,
book
yes.
to see what recipe I submit, and it might be this one.
Oh.
It may not. I don't know. We'll see. King Cobra, he knows where it's at.
You whitewashed him.
It reminds me of something that I would have seen. So there's a lady that I follow on TikTok, and she's like, pulls up these kind of ridiculous recipe things and is like, everybody's so creative. And then she gives commentary the whole time as they're doing the ridiculous things and saying why all of it's wrong. And that's what, when you were describing it, that's all I could picture. Yeah.
So you're going to go make a TikTok video after
Yes.
this?
No, because that one, as soon as you said the pot that wasn't cleaned with the egg, I'm like,
That's very
stop.
important to the recipe.
I'm like,
that
stop.
You have to use the dirty
Well,
pot.
It's dirty and it's going to smell.
Yeah.
like
Oh, I bet. I
eggs.
bet. Yeah.
Like, stop it.
Yes. All right. We got to get to a staff meeting. So let's wrap this up. We are glad that y'all joined us here today. If you have made it this far, then you probably...
Then bless your heart.
Then bless your heart. You probably...
Never going to ask us back.
Yeah, we'll see. You probably enjoyed this, which means you should probably...
Something wrong with you.
Which means you should probably subscribe and like and
Oh, okay,
comment.
Yes.
I see where you're going with that.
Yes.
I thought you were like, you may need some help.
Let us know if you enjoyed Roxanne and Wendy being on here. And if there's no comments, that will make me think y'all didn't enjoy them.
Oh,
What?
I see what he's doing there. If you
So-
comment, maybe we'll come back.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But
I don't know if that's really an encouragement because you're like, yeah, no, we don't
Sparkle
want
emoji.
yeah. So let us know what you think. Would you make this recipe? Do you agree that they are being unwilling and disobedient to God by eating that?
you back. Yes.
Do you have your own bad doctrine of the week that you want us to talk about? Let us know all these things. Do you have the face that only a mother can love? All these things are great questions that you can let us know in the comments. I think that's all we got.
That's it.
Y'all got anything else
I'm
y'all
so
want to
done
say?
right now.
You're
I'm
done?
done. I'm done.
Okay.
We're good.
All right. Thank y'all for joining us this week on Digging Deep Podcast. See you next week.